Well, speaking about energy, like I told you, we'll be talking matters to do with the cost of power in the country. And we want now to speak to the man driving that agenda, and that is none other than Fernandes Barasa, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO. Many thanks, Barasa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, looking at the power costs in the country, Kenya is yet to fully tackle this headache because looking at manufacturing, majority of manufacturers are still saying the cost of electricity is high.
Well, I know we have made some significant improvements in trying to address the cost of electricity. In fact, right now, when you look at the average costs per kilowatt hour, we are talking about 13 shillings. We have actually moved from 20 shillings per kilowatt hour. This has basically come down because of the 140 megawatts of Volcaria power that came on board last year.
Yeah.
And what KETRACO is doing is to make sure that we also bring on board other transmission lines, which we are basically using fuel generators. Mm-hmm. Early in the year, we actually brought on board Kindaruma Mwengi Garissa. By virtue of just energizing Garissa substation alone, we saved the country almost 750 million Kenya shillings per year. Mm-hmm. We have also energized Lamu substation, which was initially running on fuel. And ideally, when you look at the savings for the last 1 year, just by energizing 2 substations, we are talking about a saving of 1 billion Kenya shillings.
All right.
Now, the tariff, definitely, that fuel component on the electricity tariff and the electricity bill is actually eliminated. So these are a lot of investments we are doing in high voltage lines to reduce on transmission losses and also to bring on board cheap sources of power like hydro and geothermal.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting developments. Looking at the numbers, it is estimated that power costs have dropped by about 30%. Mm-hmm. But the common man is yet to feel this in their bill. What's the explanation for this?
Well, basically one of the components, as I said, is fuel. The next component, ideally, is the transmission tariff. When you look at the cost of transmission, the government has done heavy investments in KETRACO. Yeah. By going for those loans which are basically sovereign loans. Yeah. So when we go for the soft loans, definitely the cost of transmission infrastructure is reduced. Okay. And by and large, most of the projects, the transmission lines are actually ongoing. One major project that we believe, when it's energized, is Mombasa Nairobi. Is a 15 billion project, 15 billion Kenya shillings. Suswa Isinya, which is a 12 billion project. So once those projects are actually completed, definitely Kenyans will see a significant reduction. All right. In the electricity tariff.
And looking at the energy future for Kenya, mm-hmm. we do have a projection by the Jubilee government to deliver 5,000 megawatts by 2017. And looking at where we are at the moment, we are just under 3,000 megawatts installed capacity. Mm-hmm. And we just have less than a year to go. Do you think we will be able to achieve this?
Well, when you look at the installed capacity at the moment, we are talking about basically 2,400 megawatts.
Correct.
I think it's also important to compare with the demand, which currently we are talking about 1,700 megawatts. So what we are doing in the energy subsector is to work on the demand, because there's no point of having a lot of production without working on the demand. Mm-hmm. So in as much as we have programs for accelerating production, but what is more important is working on the demand and also on the stability and reliability of electricity. And the demand side, one of the sides we are looking at is, let's say, the SGR. Yeah. The standard gauge railway, when we finally electrify that project, will be consuming almost 200 megawatts. And that will definitely be a very effective investment, because when you look at even the transmission infrastructure and generation, we have some capital investment. So it will make a lot of economic sense when we sink more money in generation. Yeah. We also work concurrently on demand. And one way which KETRACO is actually helping is on fast-tracking construction of regional interconnectors, so that when we have excess supply, let's say in Kenya, we can do regional power trade with Uganda,
Ethiopia.
using our line,
Yeah.
Ethiopia, Tanzania, etc. So that is actually the mix.
All right.
Yeah.
And looking at the general dynamics around power projects, they are capital intensive. Perhaps you've talked about the Suswa line and, of course, the Mombasa line. In terms of getting funding, what sort of financiers is KETRACO looking at?
Well, at the moment, we are using the traditional development partners. We are talking about World Bank, African Development Bank, the French Development Agency, European Investment Bank. But when you consider that alone, they may not exhaust the potential we have. So what KETRACO is doing and the entire energy sector, we're actually going out of our way so that we actually exploit other funding agencies, including EPC plus F, and also having the public-private partnership model.
All right.
Yeah.
And one last question before we wrap it up. Of course, we know there's a big project happening in Turkana, that is the Lake Turkana Wind Power Project. And regarding the installation of the power transmission lines, just give us an update on how far we are. And also, if you could comment, recently we did have a national blackout in the country where it is alleged that it was caused by a monkey.
First and foremost, on Lake Turkana, I want to say this is actually one of the greatest projects actually in Africa, because we don't have any facility that can generate 300 plus megawatts of wind power. Where we are as KETRACO at the moment, we are talking about 52% completion. I know the expected completion time is 31st of December. And what we are doing is now to accelerate production. In fact, we now have a project steering committee that meets on a weekly basis. We have doubled the number of teams so that we can accelerate this project. We actually recognize the importance of having that line come on board as early as possible. So one thing I can give as an update is we are doing around 52%, and we hope by the acceleration program that we have put in place, we should be able to have this line delivered by 31st of December.
All right.
Now, regarding the blackout that we had 2 months ago, I know there was the issue of the monkey, but more importantly, I think it's to understand how the power system is connected. When you look at the power system in Kenya, it's actually interconnected, so that when we have a problem with any line because of various factors, it also affects the equivalent line that is alternative for evacuation. Now, we have a principle called N-1. What that means is when we have, for example, we have 2 lines bringing power from Naivasha to Nairobi. So when one line, by any result of maybe a stripping, it goes down, we have an alternative line that can evacuate that power. So the cause of the blackout was because there was a problem with one line, and then the other line that was available didn't have capacity to evacuate that power.
All right.
Now, what is the way forward? KETRACO is now bringing on board lines which are capable of evacuating that power. For example, the Suswa Isinya line is actually a 400 kV line. It can evacuate 1,500 megawatts of power. So that is now the medium-term solution going forward. Yeah.
Interesting. Many thanks there, Fernandes Barasa.
Thank you very much.
And just giving us some electrifying insights into the energy sector. Of course, we continue to keep an eye on the development